Hello everyone, Jake here for All Miniatures Great and Small, and today I'm going to show you just a quick step-by-step how I made my bases. I was inspired by the Inferno book from Forge World, so these are meant for Prospero for my Space Wolf army. That's why they're the broken up tile. So let's just start at step one, shall we? So this is kind of where I began. First off, the green putty that you see here is just, most of this comes from Hobby Lobby, all of the materials. So the green putty is from Hobby Lobby. And we also have some of the Vallejo earth textures, which is the gray stuff in between. And all of this is just held up by some cork. Now, one thing I did a mistake on these originals that I would have you do differently before you get to the mold making process is to coat the Vallejo earth texture all the way up past the cork, and I would put it even up past the ridge so it's flush with the top of the base. It just comes out nicer in the end, and that's what a tutorial that I found was telling me to do originally, but I ignored it, but now I see why. So these are just an example of the originals. Also, you come into problems with the cork in the mold making process too, because it'll tend to break apart. Not easily, that's hard to do. That only happened on I think like one mold out of like the 10 I made. So not the biggest deal. But once you get your putty and you dry it up, make sure it is completely level when you roll all of your putty together. I just took one huge piece and did it all at the same time. So you might want to break it up into two pieces and get someone to do it with you, but you want to make sure it is flush, because the first time I did it, mine was not flush, and we had kind of wavy temple once it dried. So then you score it. I forget the actual size of my squares, but I just did it till it looked good with other miniatures on it and around it. And that's pretty much it for step one. So we go to step two, the mold making. So also, like I mentioned in the beginning, I went to Hobby Lobby for almost everything here, except for my paints really. And the mold making is the molds, the green stuff, and the resin are all down the same aisle at Hobby Lobby. The greatest thing about getting it from that store is that they have 40% off coupons on one item. So I made multiple trips, or a good way to do it is bringing a friend with you too and picking up all this stuff because it's 40% off of each of them. I believe the mold making stuff is $30. And the resin is also $30. So you get a nice little discount on there. But anyway, these are my molds. The hardest part is you just have to find something that fits the shape of your mold well enough. So I believe this one is a spray paint lid. And it works pretty well for the larger bases for your 40mm. For the 32mm, we had kind of these Dixie cups that you just throw away after you use them. This one, that's why she looks a little rough around the edges, but she's actually a very good mold. Is just a square tub that I found, and I put some blue like sticky tack around the edges just to not waste mold, but this definitely took up most of my mold making agent. It is pretty easy to make these. Just follow the instructions exactly. So it comes with your main silicone, and that comes with a catalyst, and I believe the ratio is 10 to 1. 1 being the catalyst, obviously. But just follow the instructions, and that part's pretty self-explanatory. Next up, we have the actual resin bases. So a nice thing about having resin bases is your pieces are nice and heavy on the board too, kind of like chess pieces, so they don't fall over super easily. This process, you can see actually right here, you'll get some air bubbles. So what I do when I first pour in my mixtures, because it's exactly 50-50, and you want to mix it in a container that's obviously not your mold. So you mix it up really fast because it's going to harden pretty soon. And then when you pour it in, I like to tap the table like this with my hands, and it makes all the air bubbles come out. Same thing for your molds, just do that after you've done it. The molds take a longer time, but they'll start to set in roughly 10 minutes or so, so you want to do it pretty fast, but always be tapping in these two processes just to get all your air bubbles out. So when I got to this step, I realized what a big deal that Vallejo earth texture was going up, because you can see these bases don't look very good at all, obviously without any paint on them, but it just kind of looks a little gummy and swampy in between these pieces here. So I had to fill it up with a lot of dirt in my final. I had to fill it up with tons of dirt just to make it look good. But that's where you'll save yourself a lot of time. Like our previous step, if you just take your time with that texture and get it all up in there, make sure it's kind of flat. I'd fill in these parts. Obviously keep your tile untouched, but just fill in all the parts in the middle, and it'll save you a lot of trouble towards the end. But other than that, that's pretty much it. I can't remember, but I believe I mentioned that the resin is also from Hobby Lobby as well. It comes in 2 parts, part A and part B. Pretty easy to find there. There is a kit at Hobby Lobby that has that all-in-one, but do not purchase that one because it is not the right silicone. It doesn't work as well. So just buy them separately. Make sure to do double trips or bring a friend so you can save as much money as possible. But anyway, yeah, here is my final. Over here we have some of the paints that I used. So I start off with Rhinox hide as my base. As you can see, the portions right here is a lot of Rhinox hide, and I water it down heavily. Oh, I guess before this I should tell you how you start. So once I get my base and I've covered it in sand and I like how it's starting to look, I spray paint it black, and then after that dries, I spray paint lightly white. It doesn't have to cover a lot. I just mainly focus on the tiles for the white. It just saves you some trouble in the end. Be very careful just spraying a lot on, because if you spray too much, it's going to look gunky, and then the pretty lines that you worked so hard for are just going to not look great. So once it's solid white looking, then we come over here, you use your Rhinox hide. You're going to end up using a lot of these, but you're going to kind of turn it into a wash almost. Then you're going to heavily dry brush some Doombull brown, and next up is Mournfang brown. You don't really need this color if you don't want, or if you're finding that this is a lot of steps. So you could take this one out, but you start heavier dry brushing and you work your way down through these colors. So after that we have Scrag brown, so is your highlight, and Vomit brown is really light. You'll barely need to be dry brushing with that much. And then also towards the very end, I took just regular white, Vallejo or Citadel white, whatever you have, and very lightly dry brush through here. You can kind of tell that I've done that. Basically, whatever color you make your tile, that's your final highlight. So if you're having different color tile, obviously don't use white because it'll look odd. Then towards the end, I went back through and I took some Agrax Earthshade and I mixed it with Rhinox hide. I don't know, maybe 50-50, just till it looked good. And then I added a lot of water, and that's where I did a lot of my staining colors, and I made it so it looked like water had been running. So if you look right over here, this looks a little bit darker than other places. Same here. I just kind of tried to make it look how if water had hit it, plumbing has come up and whatnot. But other than that, here's some custodes to give you an idea of what some miniatures look like on them. I think I'll revisit some of these because some places I missed, and add some more inking to them. I didn't figure out the Agrax Earthshade method till later on, so I'll probably hit these guys with a little bit more. But other than that, that's pretty much it. So that's how I made my Prospero themed bases. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Other than that, thank you for watching.